Very good morning. I've got a very esteemed panel with me, and they have got a lot of experience in the CSR and the ESG platform, what in whichever organization they have been working around, not only from in this organization, but maybe earlier stint. On my right is Mr. Satish. He is a senior general manager at Bharat Dynamics Limited. So he's the missile man for us. The Bharat Dynamics, as we know, they manufacture India's total missile systems we talk about, right? Then we have got Miss Smita. She heads the Quest based out in Bangalore. She has got a rich experience of 20 to 25 years in the ESG and the CSG, CSR platform. And she has got a huge experience to share with us. And then we have got Miss Poonam. And she represents PI industry, which is into agriculture. But her experience in the corporate world earlier in that was Colgate, yeah, CP, Colgate Palmolive, right? Colgate Palmolive ka jawab nahi. We all remember Kapil Dev with the special ad, right? So thank you very much. I think the topic is very, very vast and very large, right? And talking about the challenges or the limitations, right? I think this group, this panel will try to understand one in terms of in their segment. Because when you look in terms of the challenges, let us look in the challenge in terms of what is the challenge the corporate is facing around, what is the challenge the NGO partners they are facing around or the implementing partner, what is the challenge being faced at the public sector level or from the government perspective, right? We can understand that. And what is the problem being faced at the stakeholders level. So there are huge challenges across, right? So as the time is now limited, I think we'll start off. I think let me give a brief of myself also. I'm Kumar P. Ranjan. I represent Toyam Technologies. I'm also have a foundation, Toyam Foundation, which is ATJ registered, and we do a lot of drinking water and the climate change program in that. Right? Now coming to the challenges part, I think we had a very good of interaction of 30 minutes with all the panelists. We tried to understand, try to simulate, ensure that we go in a particular sequence, right? So for what I'll set the rolling in terms of the challenges. Challenges can be in terms of the policy by itself, right? CSR, when you talk of it, it's a philanthropic thing, yeah. Why there should be a policy by itself, right? And this has been age old. I think look from the old age of 2,000, 3,000 years, all our kings and everybody had their some way of doing some society benefit. Now with the policy coming in, we are facing this challenge and limitations. If there was no policy, there was no limitation challenge. It is my wish, I want to do this, that's all. But anyway, once the policy is done, so we have to ensure that we do a good job. And I think we should all compliment all the corporate NGO. I think they are doing a stupendous job. I think the work what these NGOs or these corporates are doing, I don't think government can implement that. Even though limit is only 16,000 or 20,000 crores a year, compared to the thousands of crores of the government has, but the impact, what you guys create is superb. So big round of applause to all the corporate, all the NGOs. I think you guys are doing a great job. So in terms of, that's one policy. Then second is also a challenge in terms of which we understood is, like, I want to do a program, it's a long-term program. Now how do I do that? So how do I look at the holistic approach? So that's another thing which will keep our audience, our panel for discussion. Then there are so many programs to be done. Which program should I select? How do I say no to somebody? Everybody is coming with a noble cause to all these partners here. No, my program is best. So that's another challenge. Then from the stakeholders, right? Now, what is their expectations and what is the resource available? You may have a resource, but the community is looking at something more. You have put up a solar light. He said, no, boss, my road is not good. My drain line is not good. So what are those challenges what these people they face? Then you talk of the trust, right? How do we build up the trust with the stakeholders? Because there is a lot of give and takes. Sometimes the stakeholders think about. So those are huge amount of challenges, right? And in terms of scalability of the program and all. So with that background, let me start with Poonam on my left. Poonam, you work in the corporate sector. You also interacting with a lot of NGO partners and the implementing agencies, can you share your experience and you can dig dive into the challenges which are being faced in the sector?
Hello. Thank you, Kumar, and very good afternoon, good morning still,
Yeah.
4 minutes left. Very good morning to all the audience and my co-panelists. I'm sure, challenges and limitations everyone is aware of in their own way of implementation of CSR programs, but I think in this first round, to me, 2-3 things are very, very I think common kind of challenges which as corporates as well as for implementation we face. One is that, the program durations are not very long term. When we decide, when corporates decide programs, this is very like an annual basis. I'm not saying all corporates do that. But still, I feel, because I keep doing a lot of interactions with the implementation partners, and I come across a constraint that, the program is very short-term. And that brings, I think, multifold challenges in terms of your approach is reduced to looking at impact outcomes, not on the larger objective, not on the what problem, you want to solve. So, and impact outcomes have become very, very important conversations even by the boards and CSR committees. What impact, which is important. Without an impact, you can't even think of a program, but that gets reduced to numbers, that gets reduced to reach. And I many times see that what's the objective and what should be the outcome, so there is a difference in that. Many corporates also fail to identify. And how it cascades down and becomes a challenge for NGOs, that for 1 year you will hire those kind of resources because you're not sure of the next year's plan. So talent becomes then, attracting right talent becomes an issue. How much time or energy you can put in building the capacities then? Because you have a window of 1 year, wherein you need to demonstrate certain impact outcomes. So your efforts of putting long-term capacity development plans just go away. So I think in the first round, that's sufficient to say that I see this as one of the major challenge. And there are multiple, of course, my colleagues or panelists will talk about it.
Thank you, Poonam. So you rightly pointed out, right, in terms of a challenge for corporate is having the right talent or even having the right NGO partner by itself, right? Because if you got a budget, a large budget. Now, I was just looking at one of the surveys. It talked about, if you look at the top 100 NGOs, the 100 rank NGO is doing 10 to 12 crores or 15 crores of turnover. Now, I think that's again a thing, how much capability that NGO has. There are millions of NGOs in India. Everybody can have an NGO, right, Anna? How do you select that NGO? I think that getting a right talent, very rightly put, Poonam. Thank you very much. I come to Mr. Satish, right, Anna? Satish from BDL Senior DGM, right? Senior General Manager, sorry. And his experience, his challenges, because he comes from a background from a public sector, right? And he will have his own challenges around. Let us understand from him. Thank you. All the best, sir.
Thank you. Once again, formal good afternoon to everybody and my co-panelist also. As we are aware that entire corporate social responsibility governs with that Section 135, Companies Act, Schedule 7. Those are the things which are the basic. But as per the government CPSU is concerned, my owner is President of India. Ownership is owned by President of India. So I had to align my CSR policy with the themes which are given by the government of India. So every year they come up with the themes and everything, and we have to spend 60% of my budget with the CSR in specific themes which are given by the government. So this is a one challenge, and that too, Government of India focus in aspirational districts which are far behind the development of the nation is concerned. So we had to focus and we have to identify the agencies who are there in that aspirational districts or the government machinery to achieve our objective of in particular segment. That's a one challenge which we have especially concerned for CPSUs or public sector domain is concerned. And the biggest another challenge is that it was before 2021 Ministry of Corporate Affairs was not given so much of guidelines. Now after 21 it is structured. Now the policy has been defined very systematically. Now the challenge is going to be an opportunity we can convert. Like one example, we generally give one, say, dual desk to the college students. It is very easy, go and buy and give it a desk to that. But we should not see like that. What we do that, we align with the jail intimates, that in a jailer of Chenchalguda, Hyderabad, people who are a jail intimates, they doesn't have a work. So they do some activity for future earning. So we align with those bodies where they get an employment for that doing a dual desk. And that dual desk we will give it to the government schools. It is a both beneficiary for the jail intimate also to have a skill development and simultaneously give it. And mere purchasing and giving doesn't do. We have to do a sort of opportunity in that challenge also. This is the one focus area. Please, next.
Satish, I will dive more into you, because you are from a public sector, and how do you select a NGO? Do you have a tendering process, or there are so many people? How do you say no to somebody? Like you may get a MP or a MLA, you will say, give me the budget. So can you highlight something on that? That's very interesting thing we all want to know how.
As I said, we are a government organization. Obviously, we will get a public representatives, their references, they have it. Then we will say that this is the theme which is declared by the government. Please, your project should be as per this theme and as per the locations which are identified by the government. Then
is it that so simple?
Yeah, it is not the simple, sir, but you have to engage them. We have to tell in a such a way that this is the policy and we are following the procedure and the policy. And with the now the structured of thing, the registration, the transparency which is bringing by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in terms of CSR and everything, it can be professionally we can say that this is the way. If it is there, then we can join together. That's the way we can say, sir.
Thank you, Satish. I think what he is telling is, if we should be on the right path, if your policies are designed and if it is following the framework, I think those NGOs are welcome. So thank you, Satish. Now coming to, I think, Smita, sorry. Sorry, Smita. Smita, your experience, because you are the master of the ESG and the CSR. Now ESG is a new norm, right? And can you now talk about more on the challenges and the ESG regulations or policies?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for listening to our challenges. So this is the first time I think. I thank organizers to make this as a topic. Most of the time people think, even if you internally, if you see in any organizations, we are the only ones who spend, right? So rest of the departments are bringing money to the business and we are spending. So generally people think we are the richest and we will not have any challenges. But our challenges, there are many people who are listening to us. I think it is on stage for ventilating our challenges. Thank you so much. I always say we are in between the scissors, we don't want to say no to our implementing agencies, but at the same time we have to convince our internal stakeholders, align to our policies, align to our CSR committee's expectations. So there are internal as well as the external challenges that we do face. So major thing is, when it comes to an MNC and where we execute our programs as a foundation, the results which the company looks at, this is a fast AI-based generation, and like how a sales head has a target to achieve and people suddenly thinks, we have been spending crores of money on this project and where is the result? Every CSR committee asks for, and convincing our internal stakeholders saying that the development sector has its own time and space to change. I think I still remember our chairman asked me in the first year of the project, when are our children going to IIT and IIMs? I'm looking at him and said, I'm still struggling to fix the toilets of that school, and you are asking me to send that boy or a girl to an IIM and IIT. But it happens in a slow pace, but you have to convince your internal and external stakeholder. I think that is one of the challenge generally all of us face in the organization. And resource mapping and allocation of the budget, planning a program and which fits into our organization philosophy is another major challenge. I think that's a common thing that all of us face in the sector, I guess.
So, thank you, Smita. Poonam, coming back to you, Hannah, we talked about the challenges, right, Hannah? Can you give your experience, right, dive more into the challenge what you face so that we can get into the next phase of our discussion?
I completely echo what Smita said. So it might not appear that, these, we are venting out the challenges.
No.
But I'm sure everyone is going through that. Another piece of challenge which not one, maybe I'll talk about two here. At times,
We want you to open up.
At times we always hear a conversation that, to make a CSR program sustainable, we should leverage the business trends, and it will become sustainable, there will be business interest to that. You can, deep dive, maybe assess what are the capacities in the value chain, you can use them, which is great, which is really great, and I've seen those programs which are designed and where you use your core business strength, they become highly scalable, sustainable, but it also has a flip side to it. When you go to businesses and you start talking about, that we have an opportunity in CSR to leverage our business strengths and bring that impact, as business leaders would, obviously, everyone eyes on CSR funds, so the business leaders also, they will just jump on it. Oh, yeah, why not? But then maintaining that fine, thin line that what's a business benefit and what's a impact benefit. That's extremely challenging and also extremely critical for a CSR head and even, for NGOs to understand. So to me, that becomes a very, very tricky kind of a situation wherein you engage with business leaders, they become happy, they become engaged, and then at one point in time, you need to go back and tell, Yare, we need to delink this. So it's very important, before doing all that, you make them very clear and sensitize that, what falls under CSR and what can become a thin line. And I have seen, I've seen sometimes corporates taking advantage of this gray area, which is not great. So that's a challenge. Another thing also is on, the scalability of the program and sustainability of the program. We just start the program and we then wonder, what will happen after 3 years if you have not worked or done enough of homework of engaging your stakeholders even at the time of need assessment. And if you have not put in enough thought in the program design, that how would you sustain this program after 3 years, or there has to be some exit strategy. So if you have not done that exercise, unfortunately program dies its own death. So that I think, and it's on the both sides. The corporates also have to have that kind of view, and NGOs also have to have that kind of, groundwork wherein they engage and stakeholders enough so that the local stakeholders take ownership. You need to make those systems. And on scalability again, if your program is successful in one geography, you want to scale it with the same organization, same model, it becomes a constraint because the NGO is so focused on one geography or one thematic area. So you have to find then another partner. Again, the journey, same journey of, aligning everything together. So I think these are a couple of things which, while implementing, we come across these kind of situations.
Great, Poonam. Thank you. I was just heard one word actually, which is a lot of critic talk about a greenwashing. No, we understand whitewash in cricket. You defeat somebody, or in football you do a 5-0 or 10-0, right? It's called a whitewash, right? Series whitewash. I don't think India can do whitewash of England right now because they won one of the tests actually. But hopefully they win this test. India should win the test. Now, greenwashing is another which is a terminology which I come across. Now, Poonam, I will come back again to you, then I will talk to Smita on that. So, is this a challenge, a greenwashing for the corporates? Maybe again, Satya, but first to Poonam, first to you.
What to say? So I wear both the hats of heading
That's why-
CSR and ESG, and this term is more used when it comes to ESG. I think the world is now moving towards a direction wherein greenwashing will not stay for long. It
Good.
might not bring that kind of equity. The regulations have become stringent for ESG. People have become smart. We think, I think we think that we can do that and get away, but your consumer or your stakeholder or your partner, your NGO, they understand. So and when we talk of certain brands, we also talk that way, अरे ये तो ऐसे काम करते हैं और ये yes, trustworthy. So, and it also depends on the DNA of the organization, right? So DNA value based है तो greenwashing कम ही होगी. To sum up, I think greenwashing, yes, we see a couple of times, we understand. Unfortunately, those organizations, should wake up very soon, if not, done already, because this is going to stop. And that's why there is so much of emphasis of putting up regulations, which sometimes become disturbing, challenging, but I think focus is going towards transparent disclosures. And now it's not just pleasing the shareholders, कि आप market value ज़्यादा दे दो तो shareholder बस खुश है. It is engaging the stakeholders, which are number and huge. Even for an organization to engage their own employees, you can't live with greenwashing for a long. So I am very optimistic that with the pace regulations are moving, with the pace consumer is now more aware, with the pace the world is moving, you can't even do businesses in some of the countries, for example, European Union, if you are just using greenwashing, things will very quickly change.
Thank you, Poonam. Satish?
Sir, on this point of greenwashing, as I previously told, my owner is President of India. Simultaneously, 50% is held by the public at large. So my owners also 15% from the society. So we do also comply ESG regulations and everything. Being our core manufacturing organization, we are not into chemicals or gas. We are totally a missile production organization, core manufacturing of missiles. So our Duncan says that we consume a lot of power. So to avoid these things and to contribute to the society in large, what we say that we have a huge plants where we have a sufficient of land and everything is there. So in 2 units at the rate of 5 megawatts of 2 solar plants we have erected, around total megawatts of 10 megawatt solar plants are there, which take care our power requirement needs. In that way, we are part of that corporate social responsibility, simultaneously ESG norms also, and greenwash in the context of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. Smita, you want to put some point to that?
No, I actually echo what Poonam says. Say when there is something new in the market, so everybody wants to dig down and see any brand for that matter. So if you see a couple of years back, CSR, everywhere it is, everybody wants to talk about the CSR and now it is ESG. And anything which is temporary will not stay for a long, even though every tender, every business requirement needs an ESG reports and the scorecards. We are working most of the companies working on the scorecards of ESG, not on exactly executing the ESG principles on place. So I don't think this will be there for a long. But of course, wearing two hats in a company sometimes is a challenge, and we have to convince people that yes, in the ESG is not just the corporate social responsibility, and if you are an MNC and if you follow ISO standards for CSR and you also follow Indian Company Act and then the ESG, then you may have to wear three hats, and then the challenges flips from one to another.
That's very great, I think. In summary, what we can understand in terms of challenges, one is in terms of policy, I think there's no lot of clarity in terms of policy. So going forward, I think this challenge can come down. Greenwashing we talked about, and Poonam and all my team talked about very strongly that may be a very old phenomenon, old one, when there was not much of policy or not much of document. And I think today we are talking more in terms of how the impact is getting into that. So coming to the limitation part, right, which is the second part of it. Again, in the CSR or ESG, limitations, yes, there are many, but I think there are many things which are being done. But one limitation I can understand, like when you talk to a shopkeeper, you say, "Sabki dahi meethi hoti hai." So when you talk to the corporate or any NGOs, they say, "My practice is the best practice." So do we have any standard on that? That we can say that, okay, this parameter, we can say that, okay, this is the right practice. So I understand that point. Then the quality of data which comes in, right, from the field, right? We work on that data, but if the data entry itself is a questionable thing, I don't know. So I want to talk to my panelists. This is what I believe. Then the stakeholders, right? Like you come with the cause to the villages, you want to do something for the society, and the stakeholders, they have got their own interests. Now, is that not matching, then is that creating because you got a limitation of your budget also. So you have to ensure that. So is that creating a limitation for you or not? And then the other thing is in terms of impact assessment, right? Which is a very big word. ESG is coming in and it's already being implemented, right? But impact assessment, is there also a challenge or there is a limitation in how do you do the impact assessment? If somebody is doing a drinking water program, other guy is doing a drinking water program, how do you say that this program is good or this program is right? And another thing is, a lot of corporates, they are doing programs in the villages. Now, is there a duplication of the same work? If you create infrastructure, one can see there is an infrastructure there. But if there is a education program, awareness program, skill development program, is it getting replicated? Is there a duplication? I'm not very sure if there is any national portal data available for this particular village, this is something happening or I'm doing this. Every company has got their own directions, right? Ideal would be that two corporates, they come together, if they're in the same area, do that. But how feasible or how limiting is that? So open this now, this limitation part 2 with Satish now. Satish, what has been your experience and how do you overcome this?
Sir,
let us understand.
Obviously, the limitation is always your budget. That is a different issue. But the point is that when you spend your money, it has to be, you have to properly document it and you have to be clearance with all your audits and everything. That's your limitation also. That is your challenge also. And another limitation is that you cannot club with another organization. Even though law permits that clubbing of the two company or foundation, you can do it. But the point is that while doing a CSR also, your company branding and your company identity is also very important. In that way, doing alone makes a lot of significance and it should not be seen. Obviously, the limitation may be in a scaling, in the sense having a more budget, you can do more. But whenever you do it in such a segment, which is very important for you, that is fine. Only the limitation comes scaling or other thing is that you wanted to do so many things, but you cannot do it. That's the only limitations.
Smita?
Yeah, I think we talked about 4 things. One is program planning, execution, impact assessment, working with the stakeholders of the state government.
Right.
So we all spoke about the challenges in terms of all these 4. So when it comes to working with the government, because we execute all of programs by ourselves, we have a foundation, we are around 100 people working only for the CSR. It is because our chairman is very interested in this and it is possible. So the first challenge and the solutions that we found is working with the state government, getting permissions for the project is really a challenge. You know, once the government changes, they comes with the new rules, and a bureaucrat changes and he brings or she brings a new rule. So that is still a problem for us, how much ever we put effort. The program planning, as you all know, we are all from a development sector, documentation, writing a program and sharing it with another NGO, sharing it with another corporate is a problem for us. So I'm working in the development sector for a long time. So what we decided is, we took 8-9 years to develop certain programs in the education sector. And we declared that there is no copyright, it is copyleft. So anybody interested to execute our programs in terms of scalability, we will be happy to train people and hand over all the manuals which we wrote. That is the solutions that we found. When it comes to execution, as all of us said, identifying and implementing agency is a challenge. However, because we don't have, when it comes to limitations, the law may not permit us to train our implementing agencies or resources. That is one of the reasons we have our own resource to execute the program, because we want to have a hands-on experience and say whether this program works or not. If not, what is the solution? When it comes to impact assessment, again there are challenges, because if you go back to board and said I have done the program for 10 years and I failed, then all of us, you know the implication of it. So you have to have an organization, third-party agency, which does an impact assessment for us. Again, identifying a right resource is a challenge. I just want to quote, we have asked some agencies to do impact assessment, and they quoted around 48 lakhs to do that. So out 48 lakhs, I can implement 4 programs, right? So that is also one of the major challenge that we face. So put together.
I'll just interrupt with you. Sorry. You talked about training the NGO partners. It's a limitation for you. Can you elaborate more on that? Because that's a thing which I think all the NGOs, there are so many small NGOs, no? They want to know how I should do the program. They should be trained on that. If you say that is a limitation, so let me understand something more from you.
Yeah. So it is not just an NGO resources, because even we have our own resources, right? We hired to execute this. So one is getting a right resource, train them. The moment you train them and they get a better opportunity, that is a common challenges for all of us. But there is no specific budget allocated to train the NGO partners or the implementation agencies, because that may comes under the admin cost, and you have a bracket of 5% of admin cost.
Thank you.
So that's one of the limits.
Poonam, I think your experience has been great.
I think
So-
Smita has already talked about the limitations, but maybe to dwell more, it's a very fragmented approach. Like, I don't think, any corporate or any should think that they are the only one who have to solve the problem. I think the role here of this corporate CSR and regulations is that you create models which could be replicated, which could be scaled, but to do that, there is definitely a need of collaboration. Everyone is working on education in one area. There must be 10 companies working on education in one area. There must be 10 NGOs working, but everyone has a different way of working, which is quite obvious. But imagine, if this was a common effort, everyone working together and also engaging government. So you leverage on government's schemes or resources. The result and impact could have been much, much, much at the scale level as well as at the depth level. But as she said, and I also come from corporates, the brand equity, everything becomes like important, which is very, very limiting to capacity building, and especially when, this, after this regulations, or I would say, a short-term program approach, if there is, that becomes really, really very difficult because you don't have one budget, two, there's no time. Everyone, is just chasing the impact number. So where's the time? So the onus is also on the corporate, when you receive or when you design a program or when you receive the proposal from NGO, how many NGO or CSR heads, make sure that there is some budget for capacity development. I have heard, we are in circles, so we keep talking. Per contact reach kitna hoga, usi pe hi itna conversation hota hai corporates ka with the NGOs, so what to talk of capacity building. And we fail to understand that if the capacities are not built, how can you expect a quality, right? So those are the issues, both from the corporate sides. I think CSR heads should make an effort. From the NGO side also should make an effort to be little more agile. World is moving very fast. Having age-old structures and way of working might not help NGOs now. This is a time when things are moving at a very rapid state as compared to 10 years earlier when, this information or this was like not as rapid as it is today. So that to me, appears a challenge or limitation actually for more scale, more depth.
Thank you. Thank you all my panelists. I open this forum for some one or two questions maybe, if somebody has it, or we can just summarize because we are really running on very late actually. I think Tina was showing me the time. If there is no question, I think then we say thank you very much. Thank you panelists, Poonam. Thank you Smita. Thank you Satish. It was wonderful interacting with you. I am sure the experience what you have taken and whatever, I think I posed some difficult questions or some trying to understand more inside information. I think you all have been very benevolent, very understanding. I wish you all the best. Let's do a great work what the CSR team is doing around. And thank you all the organizing committee, Mr. Bhatia Saab, thank you very much. It was so pleasure to be here and part of this discussion. Thank you. Bye.